Is there an association between lack of sleep and an increased risk of diabetes? First of all, we all know diabetes is like a huge, massive, crazy thing going on. And I promised y'all in a recent video that I was going to talk more about sleep because it's kind of my jam. There's this just like growing body of research about how really, truly important sleep is for our health. Like, we have got to protect our sleep like at all costs, right? And listen, sometimes life gets in the way, the babies get in the way, work gets in the way, like anxiety, our brains, right? All these things happen. But in general, I feel like we don't prioritize our sleep enough and like in the ways that we should. So this study came out that has an association, so not causation. Remember that we cannot say this causes that, okay? But association, and a pretty strong one, about lack of sleep or like poor sleep. Well, just lack of sleep, let's be specific, and increased risk of diabetes. So people who got 6 hours of sleep or less had a 16% increase in their risk of diabetes, even with a good diet. And people who got 4 hours of sleep had a 41% increase in their risk of diabetes, even if they had a healthy diet. Okay, this is wild because that was in a study that was like 200,000 people. So like not small, kind of a lot of people. That's a good thing, right? The more people, the better, because we can sort of extrapolate that information and see if it maybe applies to the general population, okay? Again, association is not causation. But like I said, this is part of a growing body of research that is showing that even if you exercise, even if you eat right, your sleep has so much to do with your health. Like, you cannot be a fully healthy person if you aren't sleeping. You just can't. You can be an ultra marathoner and eat vegan and do all of the things and whatever, but if you're only sleeping 4 hours a night, I actually don't care who you are, you're not as healthy as you could be. This really goes back to that sleep hygiene that I talk about. Bedtimes are not just for kids, and that's not my line. I'm stealing that from lots of other providers who've been like, bedtime is not just for kids, but bedtime is for everybody. I don't follow that necessarily in the best way either. But in reading this research and getting this information out to y'all, it's really, really teaching me about how like super important sleep is. And so sleep needs to kind of be whenever it works for you. If you're not a person who goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night, okay, that's fine. But then if 1 a.m. is your bedtime or 7:30 p.m. is your bedtime, whatever your bedtime is, just make it your bedtime every night. Cool, quiet, dark place, get the electronics out of there. If you need to use a little noise machine or like have a little white noise in the background, I do. I have tinnitus really bad. I can't, like, ringing in the ears. So I can't sleep without some white noise, but a white noise machine is better than like using your phone, right? Because you want to get the electronics out of the room. And just protect your sleep, just like you're going to protect everything else. Just like you're like, I actually don't want to stand around a bunch of smokers because I don't want secondhand smoke, like things like that. Protect your sleep in the same way, okay? I definitely want to know what y'all think about this. Like, what is your sleep routine? What are things that you've done to fix your sleep? Do you take medications to help with your sleep? Are you like the most amazing sleeper ever and you want to give some tips to everybody else about what you figured out about your sleep? Like, we want to talk, I want this to be a conversation because I want to know. I'm a pretty good sleeper, but also that's just kind of how I am. So sometimes I actually don't have the best recommendations for people about good sleep from personal experience because I sleep like a rock. Like, when it is time to go to bed, I'm down. And I'm down for a good like 7 hours. Like, I'm about a 7.5 hour person when it comes to sleep. I wish I could get it up to 8, and sometimes I do, but I'm a pretty consistent like 7.5 hours uninterrupted, and it's usually pretty good sleep. So I'm lucky for that, very much so. But I know a lot of people struggle. So if you have struggled, but you've got some ideas for sleep, you know, especially if they're well researched and documented and all this stuff. I want to know wild theories out there, but let's talk about it in the comments. I want to hear from y'all.